The British royal family has never been a place where secrets stay buried for long. Behind the gilded doors of Buckingham Palace and Clarence House, power moves quietly, alliances shift without announcement, and the institutional memory of those who have served the crown the longest becomes the most formidable weapon of all. What has just emerged from inside royal circles is being described by those who understand the inner workings of the monarchy as one of the most audacious attempts to reshape the structure of the royal family in living memory. And it was stopped, not by a press leak, not by a public outcry, but by one woman who had been watching very carefully for a very long time. Princess and the Princess Royal has long been regarded as the most disciplined, most dutiful, and most institutionally loyal member of the royal family. She does not court headlines. She does not give interviews designed to shift perception. She shows up, she works, and she watches. Those who know her well will tell you that underestimating and is among the most costly mistakes anyone operating inside the royal institution can make. That lesson, it appears, has now been delivered in the clearest possible terms. What and uncovered relates to a plan that sources describe as having been quietly constructed over a significant period of time, a plan connected to the question of royal titles and the positioning of Queen Consort Camilla's children from her first marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes. Neither Tom nor Laura carries royal blood. Neither holds an official royal designation. When Camilla married King Charles in 2005, Queen Elizabeth made it explicitly clear that one of the foundational conditions of that union was that Camilla's children from her previous marriage would remain private citizens. No titles, no official royal roles, no access to the structures and privileges reserved for those who are part of the working royal family. That condition was understood by everyone involved. It was the price of entry, and for as long as Queen Elizabeth was alive, that line held firmly in place. But Queen Elizabeth is no longer alive, and what sources are now revealing is that in the period following her death, a quiet and carefully constructed effort began to emerge from within Camilla's private office, an effort aimed at securing royal honors and elevated ceremonial standing for her children. The titles reportedly being explored were specific and deliberately chosen. The Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order for Tom, and an equivalent Dame designation for Laura. These particular honors carry significant weight because they fall within the personal gift of the sovereign, meaning they can be granted without parliamentary involvement, without public debate, and without any formal process that would attract outside scrutiny. They could, in theory, be signed and sealed before the wider institution or the public had any awareness that the matter had ever been under consideration. The strategy, as sources describe it, was not built around a single bold request. It was methodical, layered, and deliberately designed to avoid triggering any alarm before it was too late to reverse. Guest lists for royal events were quietly adjusted. Internal classification records were modified in small ways that appeared on the surface to be routine administrative housekeeping. And then something more significant occurred. A new internal category was created within palace systems, a category that had no historical precedent within the institution. It was described as covering extended household members with ceremonial eligibility, a designation that existed for no other purpose than to provide a documented institutional pathway through which Tom and Laura could be treated as though they already possessed a form of royal standing, establishing precedent before any formal title had been granted. It was, in institutional terms, a foundation being quietly poured beneath a structure that had not yet been announced. Sources familiar with the timeline also note that the push was intensified during the period surrounding King Charles's cancer diagnosis. While the palace was consumed with managing the health of the sovereign, paperwork was moving in the background. The significance of that timing is not lost on those who have since reviewed the sequence of events. It represents not merely ambition, but a calculated exploitation of institutional distraction at the most sensitive possible moment. Those inside the palace, who have since spoken carefully about what was discovered, describe their reaction with words like disbelief and fury. And found it. The reason she found it is rooted in something that happened years earlier, in 2023, and had already intercepted a separate attempt originating from Camilla's private office, an attempt to have a protocol connected to Princess Diana quietly deleted from the official ceremonial handbook and blocked it immediately. But more importantly, that incident told her something she did not forget. It told her that Camilla's office was capable of operating through bureaucratic channels in ways specifically designed to avoid detection, and that the ambition driving those moves had not diminished over time. From that point forward, and maintained a level of institutional vigilance that most people inside the palace had no knowledge of. When a trusted member of palace staff came to and described an unusual volume of reclassification requests emerging from Camilla's private office across a concentrated period, and acted immediately, she began pulling documents. She reviewed every trail, and according to sources, without a single exception, every thread led back to the same originating office. The picture that assembled itself was not ambiguous. It was comprehensive, documented, and entirely traceable. What and did with that information is being described as a masterclass in institutional precision. She did not act in haste. She did not allow anything to be disputed or explained away. She assembled every piece of the record until it was airtight, and then she took it directly to Prince William. The meeting was brief. William reviewed what was placed before him, and his response was immediate and unequivocal. No member of the Parker Bowles family would receive a royal title while he held any influence over the institution. Not now, not in the future, not through any mechanism or under any framing whatsoever. What followed was swift and total. Every classification change was reversed. Every scheduling adjustment that had been quietly introduced was revoked. Every document connected to the title exploration was pulled and formally terminated. The entire administrative architecture that had been patiently and carefully assembled over many months was dismantled in a single afternoon. But William did not stop there. He implemented a new protocol, requiring that any future changes to royal attendance classifications be formally approved through his office before taking effect. In one decisive action, he established himself as a permanent institutional check on the administrative operations of the Queen Consort's office. That form of oversight, sources note, has no modern precedent in the history of the institution. William also ordered a comprehensive audit of every administrative change made by Camilla's private office over the preceding 18 months. What that audit returned confirmed that the title exploration was not an isolated incident. There were multiple instances across that window in which palace protocols had been modified in ways that directly served either Camilla's own positioning or the gradual elevation of her children's standing within the institution's internal records. The title plan was the largest and most constitutionally significant of these, but the pattern it revealed was broader than any single document. There is one detail in this account that those close to William have described as the most quietly devastating of all. He did not learn any of this from his father. King Charles, whose name sits on the documents governing the institution he leads, was aware of what had been developing inside his own household. He had not warned his son. He had not intervened to stop what was happening. He had been silent. That silence, in the context of what was uncovered, told William everything he needed to know about where his father stood when confronted with the choice between institutional integrity and personal loyalty to his wife. After leaving William's office and went directly to Clarence's house, she delivered the news to Camilla in person. There was no softening of what she had come to say. Every document was laid out, every reverse decision was explained. The new protocols were made clear. And then, when it had finished, Camilla asked to speak with Charles. It was, by all accounts, the moment that cut most deeply. She needed to believe that he would step forward, that this would be the confrontation that finally saw him choose her, and told her that Charles had already been informed and had chosen, again, not to intervene. The meeting lasted less than 15 minutes. Those close to Camilla have said over many years that she carried a belief that Charles would ultimately stand for her if it ever came to a genuine, direct confrontation. That belief, sources say, did not survive that room. There is also a layer to this story that goes beyond the palace politics and institutional maneuvering. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes had, by all accounts, no knowledge that any of this was taking place. Camilla had built the entire operation without informing her children, without consulting them, and without establishing whether any of what she was pursuing was something they wanted for themselves. As a consequence of what was uncovered and formally documented, their names now sit within an official palace record as the subjects of an unauthorized operation conducted without their knowledge or consent. Whatever scrutiny follows them at royal events going forward is not of their making. It was brought to them. The aftermath of all of this represents a structural shift in the balance of power within the royal family that goes well beyond the immediate outcome. William's office now holds formal authority over a category of administrative decisions that previously operated without that level of oversight. The quiet ability that had been building since Queen Elizabeth's death to adjust, reclassify, and gradually reposition has been formally removed and replaced with a mechanism of direct accountability, and meanwhile has reportedly continued to push for the 2005 condition established by Queen Elizabeth to be formalized as a standing written directive within the household. If that happens, it would constitute the first time in modern royal history that a queen consort's children are formally and permanently excluded from title eligibility by written institutional record, a document that would outlast Charles's reign and survive any future attempt to quietly revisit the question. Camilla's position within the institution is, by every credible account, weaker than it has been at any point since she entered the royal family. She has lost whatever margin of working tolerance existed with William before this came to light. She has provided, and with documented,